Hello, everybody, and welcome to the 5th episode of the Unofficial AJR Podcast.
Sit back, man. Relax, man. Sit back, man.
Right now, I am joined with Brennen Bates, the bassist from Weathers, an on-the-rise alternative rock band whose songs you may have heard, including Happy Pills, Problems, and 1983. How are you doing today, Brennen?
I'm pretty good, considering everything. How about yourself?
I'm doing fine.
That's good to hear.
So, before we get into the questions, we're gonna do a little game called the What Song Game.
Oh, no.
Amazing title. So basically, I'm gonna ask you a question. You're gonna have to give me a song.
Oh, gosh.
Alright, you ready?
I sure hope so. I'm really bad at names of things, including songs, lyrics, and everything, so we'll see how this goes.
Okay, I'll give you a minute and a half, and we'll just go through as many questions as we can. 3, 2, 1, go. What song makes you wish you were born in a different decade?
Oh my gosh, why am I already struggling to think of the song name? Oh my god, I am so bad at this. Everybody Wants to Rule the World by Tears for Fears.
What song makes you feel like going to Vegas?
Viva Las Vegas by Dead Kennedys.
What song reminds you of your childhood?
Oh. A-Punk by Vampire Weekend.
What song makes you feel like time has stopped?
Oh my gosh, time has stopped?
And you can skip if you want.
I would say yeah, I'm just gonna skip.
Okay. What song what song makes you want to fall asleep?
Man, that's tough. I can't think of any specific song, but weirdly I like chill synthwave music.
Alright, 20 seconds left. What song inspires you?
Oh my gosh, I'm so bad at this. Oh, Melancholy Hill by the Gorillaz.
What song reminds you of your best friend?
My Type by Saint Motel.
Okay, last question. What song annoys the hell out of you?
Oh, oh my gosh, I'm just gonna say Drake.
Just all of his songs.
Yeah.
Just every single one.
Exactly. All 25 songs basically off his latest album.
So Happy Pills was a song you guys were performing long before the band was signed. For those who don't know the timeline of how things came together, can you give us the origin story of Weathers?
Yeah, so before we became Weathers, we were playing together for, I don't know, probably like 2 years, I think. Yeah, and especially weird considering none of us went to the same high school. I mean, none of us technically have ever lived in the same cities, but we were playing together and we were making friends with some people in the industry. We decided to go with a name and we had started writing stuff with some producers and co-writers, and Happy Pills kind of just came out along with I Don't Want to Know. And honestly, probably like 10 or 11 or even more other songs we wrote that never got released. And then we had to decide on the band name. We went through, I kid you not, probably hundreds. I remember we printed on pieces of paper names, and we would take turns going through and crossing out ones we didn't like. And then eventually we somehow ended up crossing out every single one. And then a friend of ours helped us find the name Weathers. And there was no meaning behind it, but eventually we kind of grew into it and somehow it matched our vibe and we lucked out. And then shortly after, we played our first show as Weathers in New York during 2015. Oh my gosh, long time ago. We released Happy Pills in forgot to mention 4 years ago today is the first day that any of our songs, and specifically it was Happy Pills, got played on the radio.
Oh wow, congratulations.
Thank you.
Perfect that we're doing this today, huh?
Yeah, right. It's so funny. But yeah, Ted Stryker got a hold of Happy Pills the day before it got released, because technically we released it June 2nd of 2016, but he played it on June 1st. And we put out I Don't Want to Know probably a month or two before that, kind of as the leading build-up song to Happy Pills, which is when we really started pushing it. And then that's when things started to kind of pick up for us.
And who or what were your guys' inspirations for the band and the music that you guys play?
Ah, man. I mean, originally, it kind of never was one inspiration. When we all write together or when we write separately, we all kind of take our own natural influences based on any bands that we like, and then they kind of mesh together. Like, I've always been unintentionally inspired by the Gorillaz and punk music and probably like Robert DeLong and stuff like that personally. But yeah, there's not any one inspiration, which I appreciate because we kind of all took a little bit without meaning to from other artists that we grew up listening to and that we enjoy. And it kind of created this new sound, which kind of helps us also get away from the fact that it makes it a little bit harder for people to compare us to other bands, which we appreciate because, we don't want to be another band. We want to be ourselves and put our own image, sound, and vibe out there.
And I know probably nobody knows this because it would be creepy if they did, but we're actually both from Southern California, and that's how we found each other to get on this podcast.
Yeah.
So, do you think the fact that you're from Southern California affected the type of musician you've become?
Oh, most definitely. I feel like if I had ended up being in, I don't know, Texas, I probably would have had a lot more influence of Western and country and folk music in my writing and playing. So it's not that there's anything specific about Southern California, I think, besides just liking the beach and being in the sun. But I know in general that it's definitely led to more of that alternative rock, alternative pop scene style that we've gone with.
Considering that you're a bassist, was bass the first instrument that you played?
No, I actually started taking piano lessons when I was probably 4 or 5 years old, and I went all the way until I was 10, and I would never practice what my piano teacher wanted me to practice. So my mother told me that she wasn't going to pay for lessons anymore if I wasn't going to do the work, which is completely fair. I would play piano, but I wanted to write my own things. I wanted to practice the songs that I wanted to practice. I wasn't into the classical stuff or a lot of the theory. I just kind of wanted to be a musician. And eventually in fourth grade at our elementary school, everybody was basically forced to take music and get an instrument. And I started to play alto saxophone. I specifically played one that was my great grandfather's. And then in middle school, I wasn't that great at saxophone. So I didn't make it into the advanced band in eighth grade. And I started to learn bass to be in a band with some friends because my dad played bass in bands when he was in college. And my music teacher at the time said, if you learn how to sheet read and get better at playing and all that with bass, then you can join advanced orchestra playing bass. And that really drove me to learn bass. And this was a completely different band at the time. It was just like four eighth graders playing Red Hot Chili Pepper covers and stuff, and Oasis, of course. So,
Of course.
of course. So that's how I kind of moved over to bass.
That's pretty interesting, and I'm glad that you started off with an eighth grade band playing Red Hot Chili Pepper covers.
Oh, I was obsessed with those lines that we had.
So, what were the early gigs like when you all first started playing? Not your eighth grade band, but when Weathers first started playing. What were your early gigs like?
Oh man, early gigs were kind of sad looking back at it now. I mean, at the time it was great. I mean, we played street fairs and we would do little house party shows. When we started playing together, I was 16 or 15. So nothing too crazy at the time. We also did some shows for like family friends, like in warehouses, and eventually we started looking towards actual venues, and that's when we started playing venues down in LA, like on Sunset Strip, like whether it was the Troubadour, the Roxy, Viper Room, Whiskey A Go Go was another big one, the Avalon.
So, you started pretty early at 16.
The group that we are now, we've had member changes over the years, but I think we started playing together, just that group, at when I was 16, maybe 17. But I've been playing music with Cameron Boyer, the lead singer, since I was 14 years old.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, 7 years is a long time.
So, was Weathers able to build a fan base early on, or did it take a while before you guys started gaining a following?
Well, so, okay, I guess I could kind of go back and edit my old answer because a lot of those shows, like on Sunset Strip when we first started, that was technically before we were Weathers and before we were taking it too seriously. But once we became Weathers, the first show in New York that I mentioned was with the band The Mosers and Oh Honey. One of the singers of Oh Honey is now the lead singer of wow, how am I forgetting their name? Oh, Lovely the Band.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Mitchie Collins.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. Oh, you know what? Also, I think Young Rising Suns played that night, or maybe they were just there. Can't remember totally.
Wow, you're just naming every single band that I know.
Yeah, it's weird to kind of like listen to all these bands, and then eventually we were playing with them and now we know them. It's kind of weird how that circle grows and shifts over. But that was like our first real weather show when we started getting fans, like just a couple people in a crowd a night. And we didn't start getting any fans, like real fans, until Happy Pills came along and started playing on the radio, and we started touring that year in 2016 with Same Hotel. That's when we started to get the basis of our fan base. And it's definitely taken a long time to get to where we are. I mean, that was 4 years ago, and we've grown a lot as musicians and as people, as have all the people that have been listening to us for that long. We still have a lot of room to grow, and it definitely takes some time. You know, it's an investment. And I think for other people who want to be musicians or anything, honestly, whether it's a normal, I guess, quote unquote, normal occupation, whether it's a director or an artist, photographer, musician, it's always going to take a while unless you're really lucky to build a fan base big enough to help support you.
So, I know you talked a little bit about this already, but can you tell us a little bit more about the songwriting process and how you guys bring songs to each other or write songs together?
Yeah, so we all write mostly separately in the beginning because it's easier to get an idea started when one mind is working on it compared to 4, 5, 6 people, even 2 people starting a fresh idea sometimes can be a little bit too much input. And then we'll kind of work on basics, you know, maybe drum beat, bass, guitar, melody. And then we'll bring it to the rest of the guys, kind of talk about lyrics, see what the song should really be about, go through if there should be melody changes to any of the instruments. And then we go from there, work with a producer, or sometimes it's driven by co-writing sessions where we'll go in with people whose jobs are specifically to write music, not perform, not produce it all the way, but just to like write songs. And that's usually just like a couple guys, couple of us, and then 1 or 2 of the co-writers. So it comes back to another 3 or 4 people in total. And then, like I said, eventually goes to a producer, and that's when you work out all the kinks, all the details, the filling bits, that kind of thing.
So, in one of your interviews, I heard that someone's friend leaked Happy Pills to an RCA executive.
One of our friends had a connection to RCA, and he actually leaked it to them, and that's how RCA got involved.
Can you take us through that story and how it all went down?
Yes. So it was somebody in the industry who we used to know. I don't think we're really in contact with them too much anymore, but they had sent it to, oh my God, once again, it comes back to names, and I'm so bad at names. I think it was sent to one of the head people at RCA. Oh my gosh, either like the CEO or something of that sort. And they were really interested in the song. We ended up meeting with an A&R guy, David Wolter. We had a meeting with him, and then we also had a meeting with Columbia Records, and they were both under Sony. So when we had to make that big decision of who to go with, they couldn't kind of bid on us since they were owned by the same company. They couldn't be like, oh, we'll offer you more money. They basically had to offer us the exact same deal, and we just had to go with our gut feeling.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, it was a big choice, and it was a scary choice because, you know, there's so many stories about record labels, you know, really doing something for their musicians or just royally fucking it up for them.
Which one did you end up going with?
We ended up going with RCA, and it was definitely an interesting choice. It didn't play out the way we thought it would, but that seems to always be the case for people when they first sign with any kind of label, no matter how big or small. It usually ends up being different than they originally perceive.
And did getting signed change the dynamic of the band? Did anything become more serious or stressful or anything like that?
Yeah, I would definitely say it became more serious. And I remember the first tour, we all felt very different, you know, not just a band that plays to their friends and family, and like finally doing something with it and playing in front of an audience and attempting to move an audience emotionally and physically. So it was almost like that responsibility kind of just sprung on us, as well as actually having to make a lot more creative choices and work with the label to see what the best method was because of navigating the music industry with so many alternative bands, and figuring out a way for us to kind of sneak around and not sneak around like being sneaky, but just like just past these other bands so we could rise to the top. So there was a lot of stress about doing things the right way, not being assholes, but staying true to who we are at the same time.
And you guys actually just recently, well, not recently, I guess in 2018, released your first album. Congratulations to that.
Thank you. It's for a while ago.
Yeah, it's a little bit belated, but it still counts.
I appreciate it.
So a lot of Kids in the Night was written before you guys signed with RCA, but you actually didn't record it until after. Am I right?
Actually, there was those songs that I told you about that we had written before we were like officially Weathers, and we wrote like a bunch of songs that never got released. Those 10, 11, 12 songs were all supposed to be on an album that we presented to the label, and due to some employee changes, some employees leaving, we got shifted around within the label, passed around from different person to person, and they kind of lost focus on us for a while. So all those songs and all the money that we spent from the label to record and produce those songs kind of got thrown away, because by the time that we were being focused on again, they wanted more up-to-date music. So Kids in the Night album, it is our first debut album. However, it is technically the second album we've written as Weathers.
And are you planning to do anything with the original album, or is that kind of like a lost album that people are gonna have to find and bring up, and you're gonna be like, what the hell is this? Where'd you get this, guys?
Well, there is actually one song off the original first album that we brought back to the studio and is getting redone, kind of more up to date, even though the message of the song still applies then as it does today. Even honestly, it probably is even more important in today's world, but we're not sure when we're going to be releasing that. We don't know what the plan is for that quite yet, because it's kind of hard to plan around all this, but there's a possibility that all the other songs on the album might come out eventually as like a B-sides album. We've talked about the idea, but nothing's for sure, and it involves a lot of people that we haven't talked with and haven't worked with in a while, so it would also take the effort and time to reach out to those people again and clear things with them. So the most that people might be able to get out of it is watching old live videos of us playing those certain songs live on YouTube.
So on an artistic level, how would you say the songs have changed from the days of I Don't Wanna Know and Happy Pills to Kids in the Night?
They got more happy, I guess. Not completely. It's kind of a weird thing. Most of the songs that were on that first album that never got released, including Happy Pills and I Don't Want to Know, had a very dark and somber tone, mostly with the lyrics and what the song was about. It was very moody. Happy Pills was probably one of the only ones that sounded happy, that had a somber message. But as we've grown as people and musicians, we've kind of turned away from that mood and still want to cover all sorts of topics, like whether it's something positive, something negative, just something that people deal with daily. But I guess the best way we try to describe our music now, and our goal while writing music, is to make somebody cry and jump up and down at the same time, because we want them to feel those emotions but want to dance at the same time.
And that's exactly what I feel when I'm listening to the album.
Well, that's good.
So I don't know if this is kind of like asking the exact same question, but you guys also mentioned that the album had a new sound.
So we took a lot of time to write new stuff and come up with a new sound.
That was different from your singles. Is that kind of like what you were talking about right now, or is that something different that was more of like a producing element?
It was pretty much the same thing, although we also did get to work with Tim Pagnotta on Kids of the Night album. Amazing producer. He's worked with a lot of groups and he's killed it every time. Great producer. A couple of the songs were written with him and then produced with him, and he does such an amazing job. He definitely pushed us while writing and recording to kind of go into boundaries that we haven't been before. So it's a little bit of our own growth as well as inspiration from others.
And what was the process for creating the album? Did you guys go somewhere far away, or did you record locally?
We recorded semi-locally. We recorded and produced the album in North Hollywood. So it's definitely a drive from where, we are, but but it's not too far. Any of the co-writing sessions that we did were all in Southern California area.
What digital programs did you guys use to create and produce the music?
You mean like the DAWs systems?
Yeah, for all the nerds out there.
Gotcha. See, I'm probably gonna sound like such an idiot when I'm saying this because I try to work and produce stuff for fun, but I don't know shit compared to like a lot of people. I believe it was Pro Tools that he was using, either Pro Tools or Ableton. One of the two. They're both great.
And how long did the album take to make?
Oh my gosh. I think from the beginning of the writing, I remember one of the first songs that were written for the new album was Problems. And I think there was, I want to say like 9 months or even a year between the beginning of writing of Problems and the release of the album.
And once you guys released the album, did you immediately go on tour?
We didn't really go on tour right after the album release because I think we released it on June 23rd or 24th. God, I'm so bad at dates and names. But that following fall in October, September, right? Yeah, September and October, we went on tour with Dreamers, and that was kind of our tour push for the album, but there was nothing centered around the release of the album specifically.
How long were you on tour for?
That was, I want to say, a good 6 weeks.
Do you have any interesting stories from it that we can pull out of you?
Oh my god. I mean, well, there's definitely a lot of them, and I'm obviously gonna forget some. Because we've done a lot of touring, especially in 2019 and 2018, because we started with Dreamers in 2018, and then we went on tour with Magic Giant in the beginning of 2019, and then we went on tour with Palais Royale, and between that we did our own West Coast headline run, and then we were on a couple dates with One OK Rock, and then we did another 6-week tour in the fall with Bad Flower. So we spent a lot of time on the road. Oh man, I mean, I remember, I don't know if this is the best story to tell, but I remember being in Houston under the influence, and I was riding those Lime scooters with Jacob from Dreamers in this giant parking lot outside the House of Blues.
This sounds like it's gonna end well.
I definitely fell a lot because both Jacob and I ride motorcycles, and we were drinking, and so we were trying to ride the Lime scooters in the parking lot. It was completely empty, by the way. There's no cars or anything, but we were trying to lean into the turns, kind of like riding a motorcycle. So there's multiple times that the scooter just gave out from underneath us, and we went over to the 7-Eleven to get some snacks on the scooters, and some guy was asking me, hey, can you just like leave this on for me and I'm gonna take the scooter? And I was like, no, I'm not just gonna pay for your Lime ride. Sorry, I don't know you. And like there was these kids who were like opening the freezer section and the refrigerated section and like picking things up and like throwing them on the ground or something like that. The clerk started to call the cops, and then later we were heading back to the hotel we were staying at, and those same kids were getting kicked out of the hotel lobby because they were causing trouble there too. That's just, I mean, there's been times where we've run out of gas in the middle of nowhere, Oregon. We've had to smash the back window of our van because it's like a highly skilled game of Tetris to fit everything, because we have to, there's so much gear, and there's only so much floor space, so a lot of it is stacking up to the roof. There's this giant gate, like this metal gate that we installed to keep it from flying forward and hitting us while we're, sitting in the van. So multiple times the acoustic guitar had fallen, or not just the acoustic guitar, but it had fallen on the lock, that little like stick thing that pokes up that shows you whether from the outside whether it's locked or not, and it was holding it down. So if it doesn't raise up, it won't unlock, and there was no way we could get the gate out. There was no way we could go through it, and we tried a million times. We had to load in, we were late, and we had to smash the window and then bring everything in. And it happened honestly like 2 or 3 other times, but every other time when we did the acceleration and quick stop, it would work. I remember at one point I had to drive the van, and it was like during these crazy thunderstorms, and there was a tornado warning in Oklahoma, and there was like red and blue lightning. It was insane. And then that night somebody smashed the window on our van trying to break in, but they didn't actually take anything because they thought they were getting caught, so they ran off. All sorts of stuff like that.
And have you ever been recognized?
Yeah, I have. It's usually, in Southern California, just because that's where I am most of the time. But I've been recognized at the coffee shop I work at. I've been recognized on the street, like in our city. I've been recognized like in downtown LA, like at a show, or like if I'm just getting food down there. I've been recognized at the beach one time.
So in the music video for your song Problems, you guys do choreographed dancing. Is this the first time that you've done this in a music video?
Yes. We used to kind of think it was lame because, as we first started out being a band, a lot of people would make fun of us and be like, oh, you're a boy band. And, as teenagers are, you get insecure and don't feel great about that when you're trying to be a cool rock band. But as time went on, we kind of fell in love with it and the idea of like dancing in general and moving on stage so much more than just bobbing your head or like headbanging. I mean, our singer and frontman, Cameron Boyer, he does a great job on stage dancing and singing and really getting the entire crowd moving with him. We all try to definitely move and dance on stage, even the drummer. We've actually tried to do some also choreographed moves from the Problems video on stage and get other people inspired to dance with us during the show. And it's worked a couple times, not a huge amount because it is a little bit of a weird dance, but we love seeing these videos that people post doing the dance, and it's really cool to see.
And are music videos a big part of your guys' creative process?
I would say so. I mean, it's not one of our driving forces to inspire anything because, I mean, obviously, I guess technically, the music video will always come after the song, but we do enjoy making music videos. The singer Cameron is a huge film buff, and we all enjoy like watching TV shows and movies together, either in the hotel room or like while we're waiting for sound check or for the show or when we're in the van. So we really like to take our creative control over that and take advantage of it because Cameron does the directing and we all, give our input on video ideas and all that kind of stuff. So it is important to us because we do all love cinema. I remember when we did our West Coast headline run, the house music that we would specifically choose before we played were all spaghetti western cowboy movie songs. And then a lot of our intros for our sets usually will have one or two quotes from movies. Like we've taken quotes from Dirty Harry, we've taken quotes from Breakfast Club. We love incorporating film into our music, and we actually have some plans for something that has to do with film that I can't talk about, but it's a very exciting project that we're all ready to see through.
After releasing your debut album, you guys are about to headline for the first time on your Our Little Secret tour that was postponed to 2021 because of the quarantine.
Some of you guys figured it out. Some of you guys probably don't know, but the Our Little Secret tour is postponed, but it's going to be postponed till February.
Is it going to be for Kids in the Night, or is it going to try to be in time with the release of a second album?
It'll probably be in time with other releases. I don't know if there's going to be an album release associated with it, but there will definitely be a lot more new music by the time that comes out.
And are there any live shows or concerts that you guys have drawn inspiration from for your tours?
I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of good shows out there and a lot of little things. I know I've enjoyed watching a lot of live bands, even like just on YouTube, whether it's KG Elephant or Young the Giant or Panic at the Disco or Killers or Gorillaz. I remember watching Bad Flower. I would watch Alex, their bassist, play, and it was so funny because I talked to him afterwards after a couple of the shows, and I was like, man, it's so cool the way you play bass, the way you move when you're up on stage. You're kind of inspiring me to try some new things. And he responded back to me saying, that's so weird because I was literally thinking the same thing about you. And it was just so cool to kind of have this mutual respect and mutual inspiration from each other only in like a week or two after we had met.
That's awesome. So since your guys' tour was postponed, I don't mean to keep bringing it up. I'm
No,
sorry,
no,
but
you're all good.
are you guys thinking of trying to do the same ideas that you guys are gonna do for this tour, or try to go in a completely different direction?
I don't think we would go in a completely different direction. I think we would, for the most part, try to stick to what we had planned originally, but it also depends on what music is released by then, because that will change, the length of the set, that'll change the order of the set, which changes lighting cues, it'll change if we dance at all, or the movement of the set, like the ups and the downs. So there's no telling if it'll be the same, but I think that what we had planned will still be the basis, and then we would just go from there and see, kind of come back and visit and be like, maybe this was not the greatest idea. Maybe we can beat it with something else.
And all right, we'll move past that now, so I don't have to keep bringing it up.
Thank you.
If you could plan the future right now, what would be your hopes for Weathers in the next 5 years or so?
Oh, I mean, Next 5 years, I could easily say that we would like to be at the level of the 1975. It's a far goal. It's definitely a stretch, but that's definitely the point we want to be at. We want to be able to tour the world. We want to be able to play in front of a lot of people. We want to be able to inspire a lot of people and change people's lives. And that's something important to us. Once again, as we've grown as musicians, not only has it been that we grow our creative choices and the way we write music and the way we are as people, but we kind of want to make sure that we want to have an impact on the world that's bigger than just ourselves.
And almost done here, so this is like possibly last question. Kind of just brought that up randomly, but what advice do you have for people wanting to pursue a career like yours, whether it's being a bassist or just in a band in general or anything in that field?
It's gonna sound cheesy as all hell, but if you really want to do it and you really have that passion, you gotta just keep doing it. I mean, you can't give up because there's gonna be many times that you'll have a bad week, a bad month, a bad day, a bad year, and sometimes you just gotta get through it and you brave the storm and eventually you'll come through. And you also gotta be able to expect that it might not ever happen because it is a very tough industry. I mean, like I said earlier, we have a lot of room to grow and we are so far from where we want to be, but we're always trying to write more music, come up with video ideas, come up with content in general, and reach out to people and make a difference. That it's a lot of time that you have to invest into yourself and others, and you gotta make sure that you love it because some of the stuff that you go through in the music industry, it's one of those things that you gotta love it to be able to do it.
Last question that's not really a question, but I'm going to post your guys' social media links and everything below in the description if anybody wants to see who you guys are. For any new fans, what is the best way you would suggest for them to get to know you and the band and follow your guys' music?
I would say Instagram and Spotify. Spotify is a platform that I personally use a lot for music, and all our music is up there, and we have all sorts of different playlists. And then Instagram is just the easiest way to kind of see where we're at, like as a band and as people and our lives behind just the music.
All right, well, that's all the questions we have. Thank you so much for joining me, Brennan.
Yeah, well, thank you for having me on.
Of course. And if you guys want to check out Weathers, all the links to their songs and other social media pages will be in the description below. Also, make sure to subscribe for future podcasts and like and share this video if you enjoyed. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you on the next podcast episode.